CBS News chief congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes is with us now from Capitol Hill. So, Nancy, the basics of what this short-term fix is supposed to do.
Basically, it is aimed at stabilizing the individual markets and reinstating for 2 years these subsidies that the government pays directly to insurance companies to bring down the cost of comprehensive coverage for people who are on the individual market. The government makes about $7 billion worth of payments to the insurance companies every year. The president had been threatening for several months to cut off those payments, saying that they were just a big giveaway to the insurance companies, and last week he made good on that threat, and that really lit a fire under the separate negotiations that were going on here on Capitol Hill, because there have been some really dire predictions from nonpartisan economists and the Congressional Budget Office about what might happen if suddenly insurance companies don't get these payments. They might jack up premiums another 20% next year. They already built the uncertainty into their premiums this year. They might decide to exit the market altogether, leaving a lot more people without coverage. And so it was really viewed as a priority by Lamar Alexander and Patty Murray that they get some stability to these markets and reassure the insurance companies that they would be getting these payments for another 2 years. On top of that, there's about $100 million in this deal to promote the individual marketplace, to promote enrollment, to get people to sign up, because the White House had also been vowing to strip out that funding, which is something that the administration did have control over. And, you know, if you don't have anybody signing up, the markets end up withering away. You need more people coming in to bring the cost down for everyone. So there's $100 million in the deal for that as well.
So if there was bipartisan concern about what it would mean with these subsidies being removed, can I assume that there is bipartisan widespread support throughout Congress for this short-term fix?
Well, there's definitely a lot of Democratic support. I think Republicans are still digesting this because, after all, this is really the first time in 7 years that you've had a Republican and Democratic committee chair strike a deal that could be viewed as propping up Obamacare, something that is a complete non-starter typically for a lot of Republicans, and is something that only really started after they failed to pass their own replacement plans this summer. So they've been negotiating for about 2 months. And the question is, will Republicans and will the White House say, okay, we've failed so far to come up with our own replacement, so in the meantime, we need to ensure the stability of these insurance markets, and let's go ahead and put money into it? Or will they say, I'm not going to be a party to any legislation that props up a bill that I think is going to fail and that I'm going to get a raft of negative reaction to from my conservative constituents? So that's what we're still watching and waiting to see how it shakes out.
Right. And so then, in regards to the president's support, because if anybody knows, I get up super early, so I go to bed very early. And when I went to bed, it seemed like the president was supporting this plan. And then when I woke up, the White House was calling it inadequate.
Right. And let's see what happens before you go to bed tonight, because things seem to be in a bit of a state of flux. The president was in the Rose Garden yesterday. He commended Alexander and Murray for striking this agreement. Then he gave a speech at the Heritage Foundation, and he said, that he supports a long-term replacement plan, not a short-term fix, and the White House says this is not his preference. However, that really does leave a lot of wiggle room, Anne-Marie. This may not be his preference, but he still might be willing to sign it at the end of the day in the absence of a more comprehensive Republican plan. So they're leaving themselves some space right here to adjust their message, because they know that there are going to be a lot of conservative voters who might see this as a capitulation to Democrats, and they don't want to jump into it wholeheartedly with both feet. They want to sort of stay skeptical for now.
Right. Nancy Cordes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.